Hey, my name is Luke Smith. We're going to talk about hacking with YUI. That's me. That's YUI. So, YUI, fantastic Yahoo technology. And just to remember from Murray's opening talk, he was talking about when you want to hack on something, attack the hard problems first. And you have brilliant ideas. All of you have brilliant ideas. I've been following the PBWorks site. Really fantastic stuff going on. And what I want to do is I want to help take putting a front end to that brilliant idea and making that not one of the hard problems. So you can really focus on the problem that you're here to hack on, right? So so YUI exists to build faster web applications, right? Or build web applications faster. Both, actually. And so we'll go over some of the technology, and what I want to do is I want to spend just a few minutes. I have far less time than Jonathan did to cover just some of the basics in YUI. Hopefully you're familiar with YUI. If you're not, we'll go over some of the simple stuff. Come and talk to me afterwards. Covering right here. So YUI 3 in specific, JavaScript and CSS libraries, a lot of other stuff inside of the YUI library umbrella, a lot of other technologies and projects. And it's all BSD. You want to take it, rip it open, use bits of it, modify bits of it, put it in your hacks, that's fine. Use it however you want to. It's all BSD licensed. We like our stuff to get used. And these are the two links that you got to remember. If you remember nothing else from the talk, those two links are where you want to go to. And you can check out the API docs. Let's see if I have this working here. I do. Look at that. Fantastic. So we have a really big scrolling site here. So this is developer.yahoo.com. This is where you'd come for the API docs for the various controls in YUI library. And YUIlibrary.com for the community aspects, the community side of the YUI. This is where you'd go and talk about, ask questions on the forums, look in the forums for answers to some of the questions that you have. If you want to come and ask me or other people on the Yahoo team, then you can certainly do that as well. And one piece up there that I'll talk about a little bit later is the gallery. So let's go back here. Is this working? Hey, look at that. That's cool. So I think what we're going to do is we're not going to... I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. Are we good? Hey, all right. Okay, so these two links, just remember those links, write them down. You've had a few seconds to do so. Okay, so YUI is one of the few JavaScript libraries and CSS libraries that is actually increasing in adoption across the web. And that's because more people that are using the web are learning that there are a lot of hard problems in building stuff with front-end technology. And some libraries out there, we've solved this problem. We've solved a lot of the infrastructure problems that are necessary. So you want to build something fast, we can help you do that. You want to build something scalable, we can help you do that. You're familiar with some of the sites that use YUI, I'm sure, because you're here. Yahoo.com, mail.yahoo.com, Flickr, LinkedIn, all of the other things. Plenty of other sites as well are using YUI technology, thousands more every day. And one of the big reasons that you want to be using YUI in your hacks is that you don't want to waste any time reinventing the wheel. You'll hear reinventing the wheel used a lot today. We don't want to be doing any of that. You want to be using the solutions that already exist. We've already solved the problems. Don't bother spending any time solving those problems again. And you want to be presenting this hack, leverage the technology that works across browser. Even if you're just doing this hack just to show that it works as a proof of concept, somebody else might be looking at the hack on a different browser. You want to check it out on a mobile device. That's fine. If you use the library that takes care of those browser abstractions for you. But just beyond that simple layer of cross-browser compatibility, there's a huge set of features that come in with the library that you then get to leverage. And it lets you build stuff faster with APIs that are a lot more convenient than working with the native APIs in JavaScript. Very limited APIs present in just HTML, CSS, and just JavaScript and DOM out of the box, right? So let's get more done faster is the basic idea. So drag and drop, for example, cross-browser drag and drop. We have gesture events that can be abstracted for mouse events or touch events across mobile devices. And you can code it once and have it work across different environments. This is what you need to get started with YUI. This is what we're calling the simple YUI seed file. And what that is a collection of some of the basic APIs that you'll want to use for doing hacking. So you have DOM manipulation, navigation, event subscriptions, AJAX, JSON parsing, things like that. It's all bundled into this one script. And you have this big Y is where all of your API methods live on this global Y object. And here you'll see one of the heavy hitters for the API is the one method, and that takes a CSS selector. It'll take any CSS selector you pass it, CSS2, 2.1, CSS3, and it'll return you a node, a wrapped node object that has additional API methods on top of it. So you can see here the add class method. There's a bunch of more classes, a bunch of more methods that live on the node APIs, and a bunch of more methods that actually live on that Y object. So we'll cover some of those today. So that's the very, very basics. Add that script tag to your page. You're good to go with YUI at that point. DOM events couldn't be easier. There is one method for doing any event subscription, whether it's for DOM events or for custom events. It's on. So here you have the one method being used again to capture that demo element off of the page. So we're using the hash demo to capture that by ID. And then just calling the on method, you pass in the name of the event that you want to subscribe to and the callback function that you want to execute when that click happens, right? And this happens for, you can use that for mouse events, click events, gesture events, those sorts of things, right? Any DOM event, you can do that. Other objects in the YUI APIs, so if you want to create an instance of a widget or something like that, or any other object that may be hosting custom events. Custom events are fantastic for building applications and just anything that manages state or has some sort of communication that goes on as a part of that. Custom events are fantastic as a messaging mechanism. They also use on. It looks exactly the same. So just remember on and the name of the event and the callback, really simple API to work with, right? So okay, so now we're pushing stuff out to the HTML. A lot of methods to help you do that. The really simple method, append, you pass in an HTML string. This can be any arbitrary HTML string. You put big, long, nested DOM structure. You can put a bunch of p tags as sibling elements, all of that sort of stuff. It'll dump it out there inside of demo. You also have methods like insert or prepend or set content, all sorts of other conveniences for manipulating the DOM content. So if you're not familiar with event delegation, come and talk to me later, because I'm not going to go over it now. But rest assured, event delegation is very good stuff. Best practice, we highly encourage you using it whenever possible. It's just a good idea to do from the get-go. And we've baked event delegation into the library. So we have, like we have the on method, we also have the delegate method. And the signature is the same, right? You see that there's the click and then there's the callback. What you add on for the delegate method is this third argument here. At the end, you see the string li. Now that's actually a CSS selector. It can be any CSS selector. In this case, I chose to do a simple li selector. So anything inside of this demo container that is an li, if you click on anything inside of the demo container that event bubbles up inside an li, then it'll fire this callback. So any li that gets clicked inside of demo, it fires that callback. So really handy for doing things if you're modifying the content inside of demo. You don't want to have to worry about event subscriptions again later. Use delegate, really handy. It's a best practice anyway. So let's put some stuff here or there or anywhere. A nice simple method for doing that is set xy. And you know, you want to put something at an XY coordinates on your page. We can also do more advanced movement of things or changing of things. So we'll use CSS transitions, right? So we have this transition method is an API that lives on the node, and that's going to use an animated style property change over time. So here in this case, we're doing a little bit more complex. We're doing a simple opacity change over time, but we're also specifying that we're configuring in the duration and also the easing algorithm. This is actually going to use the CSS3 transition spec that exists in some browsers. It'll use hardware acceleration if it's there, and it'll fall back in other browsers to a simple timing algorithm using set timeout. But the point is that the effect comes with the API. It doesn't matter where you use it. So you can, whatever browser you're in, whether it supports the native behavior or not, you can just use the API and it will have the same visual effect. Additionally, here we're adding on a second argument onto transition, which is a function callback that gets executed after the transition finishes. So in this case, we fade something out and then remove it from the DOM, right? Pretty straightforward stuff. Let's talk about AJAX. So you're talking to your server. You have this service or that server. So here the API is pretty straightforward. The first parameter is what you want to talk to, and the second parameter is how you want to talk to it. So here's my URL. The configuration object that goes in as the second argument does the configuration for the transaction. So here, what we care about is very simple. I get a response back from the server. On the completion of that response, I'm going to process it. Here, I'm parsing out the JSON from the response text in that XHR. So if you have any questions about doing any configuration on an I/O request or using the I/O APIs, you know, you can check out the API docs, of course, but I'm also there if you want to ask me any questions about that. There's a lot more that I/O does. It can do cross-domain requests. It does form serialization. It does transaction queuing, a variety of other things. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of magic that happens here that you get for free. And that's sort of the basic stuff, some of the basic things that you get out of the box with the simple YUI package, right? So there was simple YUI.js, and that gives you the DOM, the events, event delegation, AJAX, transitions, those sorts of things. If you want to extend the API, add on more functionality, more functionality onto that Y, then traditionally in other libraries what you would do is you would add additional script tags to the page. In YUI 3, we do that in a little different way. What we do is we put that behind a use method, right? So the use method is incredibly powerful. What it does is it takes any number of names of modules, and these modules then correspond to a script tag that contain some API data, but we're not going to stop with just saying, okay, this name means go and fetch this script tag. We have a little bit more information about this module, such as its dependencies, where it's hosted, and things like that. And if you request a bunch of modules, for example, in your use line, then we will take all of those modules, we will do the dependency calculation on them, make sure that when we request them, we're requesting those modules and their dependencies at the same time, asynchronously against our combo loader on the CDN. So you end up with one HTTP request going out, hitting the CDN, and getting everything and its dependencies. And then the last argument in use is this callback for I've received my APIs, I've received my modules, they're now loaded onto my Y, and I'm good to go. So if you want to take the simple YUI, just get started, start doing your DOM manipulation, event manipulation, AJAX and stuff, but then you want to add on additional functionality, use is where you do it. So you say use DD plugin here. Okay, so I'm going to add some drag and drop functionality to my page, and now I'm going to capture a node and I'm going to plug in this drag node, and boom, that node you can drag around anywhere on the page, just like that. And all of the dependencies again for the DD plugin are resolved. So now, Jonathan just spent some great time talking about YQL, and he was nice enough to say that we love YQL, which is very true. We love YQL. We have a module, the YQL module, which adds this YQL method here. and it makes interacting with YQL dead simple. This is a functioning program, and I would like to actually show you that functioning program because it takes only a second to do so. There it is. So this, if you look at that, can you see that okay? Let's zoom in. So there we are, simple YUI. I'm actually specifying a zip, defining the render function, y.yql, and that is what you just, woo! Let's go back out. All right. We're doing the display thing again? No, we're working. All right, good. So then, that's all you need to do to interact with YQL from the JavaScript layer, if you want to do it that way. So again, use is where you do that. And if you're talking about extending the API, extending the YUI API, where you get a tremendous benefit beyond just the components that we've built on the YUI team is in the YUI gallery. I mentioned that at the very beginning on YUIlibrary.com. There's a gallery tab there. What the gallery is a collection of YUI modules that everybody else has written, the community has written. And what we do is if you submit those gallery modules to us, we will be happy to host them up on our CDN. And we'll also get information about those modules so that when you put something on our, in the gallery, that means that anybody else in the world can then put your module name in their use line and get to use your code. And that all gets combo loaded, and dependency calculations are done for you. All of the same benefits of the asynchronous loading from the YUI modules, gallery modules too. So right now, you know, we have something like 300 gallery modules right now, ranging between low-level stuff and high-level widgets, and so pretty faces and pretty widgets and things like that. So you can check that out on YUIlibrary.com. If you're coming from YUI 2, if you're familiar with the YUI 2 APIs, that's also supported inside of YUI 3. You can put that in your use line, YUI 2-data table, YUI 2-whatever else, right? Loads in those APIs, and it puts it instead of on the global Yahoo in YUI 2, it'll put it on a YUI 2 namespace on that Y. And then, you know, you can use an alias like this if you just want to be using the uppercase Yahoo, right? But so you get all of the benefits of the YUI 2 widgets and all of the YUI 2 widgets and utilities and things. If you're familiar with using those APIs, you can use them inside of 3 as well. If you're familiar with jQuery, then there's also a resource called JS Rosetta Stone that does a one-to-one mapping of the jQuery API functionality to what it would be in YUI 3. And this is really very much a subset of what YUI 3 is capable of, because the simple YUI takes care of most of the simple stuff that, that often jQuery is used for. And then all of the rest of the stuff comes in with the additional modules that you can use. And this is maintained, this site is maintained by the jQuery folks and by the YUI team as well. So we keep that pretty well up to date. So now let's talk about some other environments that you can use YUI on. And Reed's actually going to talk about this after me a little bit. And that's YUI on the server. So JavaScript on the server, fantastic, very exciting about using JavaScript on the server. And Dave Glass has done some great work making YUI 3 work on the server, which was surprisingly easy, actually. Because of the module system that we use and because of the way that we write the code, for the most part, it just worked on its own. We plugged it into the server, and it just worked. Now we have things like JS DOM, which give you a virtual DOM on the server that we can take our widgets, and we'll render them on the server, and then output that HTML down to the page. So you can, in an environment where a client maybe doesn't have JavaScript turned on for whatever reason, they don't have JavaScript turned on, you can actually send down the rendered widgets as HTML instead of relying on client-side JavaScript to make your page look the way it does. And then But anyway, I'll let Reed do more of the sell on what's going on the server side there, but some really great stuff going on with YUI in Node. So now the last thing I want to cover before I'm out of time is the CSS portions, just a couple of the CSS style sheets in YUI, 3 of them to be specific. So the reset, the fonts, and the grids. The last of those is the more exciting. So you want to use these. These are really, really easy to just drop onto your page, and they take care of the problems for you. So CSS reset, if you're not familiar with CSS resets, then I know the designers in here are familiar with CSS resets. But things like heading 1, heading 2, H1, H2, lists, cross-browser, they might style those differently. The browsers might have different rendering for those. So the reset just wipes it all out. You probably don't want to use the default anyway. You want to make it look good, which means you don't want the default anyway. So you can just add on the CSS reset onto your page and then provide your CSS on top of that, and it will look the same across browser. Now, the similar thing with fonts is that the different browsers, they render font sizes differently. So if you want to do like an M-based design, or you want to make sure that your fonts have nice typography and everything is ratioed the same between browsers, then fonts is good for that. So you can scale your font sizes, and it's all going to be pixel perfect from one browser to the next. So let's talk about the exciting one, grids. In YUI 2, we had a grids package that was pretty good. It was really, it was solid, and it was dependable, but it was verbose. So in YUI 3, we trimmed this down a lot, and we're using a new technique for doing grid-based design in YUI 3. Really, really easy. It is there. What you need to know are 2 class names, YUI 3-G and YUI 3-U. And the G is the grid container, and the U is the unit. We have a bunch of additional class names just for conveniences, but what it does is it says G is where all of your grid units are going to go, and you specify any number of units that you want inside of that, and it'll just line them up. So here the convenience class that we have for this unit is 1-3. That's 1/3. So I want to set 3 units that are evenly divided inside of that grid container, 1-3. We can talk more about grids later. That's all I have time for. Again, come and ask me questions. Remember, that's one of the links that I showed earlier, but you have the other one is yuilibrary.com.